Good evening and welcome to the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole meeting. We will convene in a Committee of the Whole on Monday, March 10th, 2014, and a regular meeting on Thursday, March 13, 2014 in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Service Center located at 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas. The items on this agenda do not necessarily have to be handled in the order listed on this notice. If during the course of the meeting covered by this notice, the board should determine that a closed session of the board should be held or is required in relation to any item included in this notice, then such closed session as authorized by Section 551.001 XQ of the Texas Government Code, the Open Meetings Act, will be held by the board at that date, hour, and place given in this notice, or as soon after the commencement of the meeting covered by this notice as the board may conveniently meet in such closed session concerning any and all subjects and for any and all purposes permitted by Sections 551.071 through 551.084 inclusive of the Opens Meeting Act. The Board of Trustees of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in a Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday, March 10th, 2014 in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Instructional Service Center. The meeting is for the purpose of reviewing that portion of the March 13th, 2014 school board agenda designated as action items and to hear designated reports and recognitions posted in the meeting notice as required by Texas law. No action will be taken at this meeting. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 to 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Assisting us this evening, manning the video cameras and also in the back room are students from Cypress Creek High School. Included on the list of students here this evening, Montavian Ware Broussard, Anastasia Gorshuna, Alex Carballo, Gabrielle Hall, Ronnie Turner, Sean Andrew, and their advisor, Ms. Jana Bullock. The board will hear the following reports. The administration will report on the sale of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Unlimited Tax Schoolhouse Bond Series 2014A and 2014B. The presentation for the administration will be given by Mr. Stuart Snow.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Henry. At the February board meeting, you approved bond orders on a parameter sale for the 2014A and 2014B series bonds that gave administration the authority to sell those bonds on a negotiated basis. And if you recall, the purpose of those bonds is for the construction of High School number 11, the architect fees for High School number 12, and for Elementary School number 55, as well as the remaining land purchases that are authorized by the 2007 bond election, and some various renovation projects under the Americans for Disabilities Act. On February the 11th, we sold the 2014 B Series bonds, and then the next day we sold the Series 2014 A bonds. We are expecting to close on those transactions on March the 13th. Ryan O'Hara, our financial advisor with BOSC, is here to give a report on the sale, and if I would ask Mr. O'Hara to step forward, appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Dr. Henry, members of the board, I did pass out prior to the beginning of the meeting, and it's on the report, it's on the big screen as well. Again, Ryan O'Hara with the BOSC. Would like to just kind of go over on page 1 the overview of the market. Rates have actually been trending our way for a couple of different reasons out in the market. We're currently at a 4.41% on the bond buyer index. That's notated on page 1, the blue line. We actually sold into a very strong market. On page 2 is actually the summary of the sale. Top of the page is the unlimited tax school building bond series 2014A. That's the fixed rate portion. We sold $40,340,000. Those bonds were sold at a premium and actually generated $45 million for proceeds for projects. Again, we'll close on the 13th here in about 3 days. The all-cost true interest rate on the fixed rate portion was a 3.764%. Very good in today's market. The bottom half of the page shows the $114,680,000 in the variable rate soft put bonds. These also were sold at a premium. Proceeds for projects is in the amount of $120 million. And the net effective interest rate for all 3 of the tranches is a 1.289. Very pleased with those results, much below our expectations, what we were using in our planning models. Page number 3 is an overview of the debt service requirements. On the left-hand side of the page is the current outstanding debt for the district. The next 2 columns are the fixed rate portions. If you'll remember, we use the adjustable rate bonds, the variable rate bonds on the back portion of in this finance plan. Then the 3 tranches, the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 5 year, are shown boxed in those next 2 columns. And the far right column shows the total debt service. Page 4 is an overview of why we talked about doing this variable rate bond program. There's a lot of numbers on this page, but what we do, this is one of our planning pages. We take the results from the sale, again, from the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 5 year tranches that we used, and we assume a 4% reset rate out in the future. If you'll remember back from our original presentation, the historical average is about 1.7%. So when we use 4% as a planning, we're using more than twice the historical average. So we said, assuming in the future we reset all these at 4%, and we use what we actually sold the bonds at for the first year, you can see the 4% is represented in the gray area. But the total debt service difference between what we would have sold these if we would have sold them as fixed rate is just over $32.5 million. So we're being very conservative in giving you that number. I expect to do much better as we trend through time in this variable rate bond program. And this is actually the 3rd variable rate bond program that we've done for the district, and each one of them have been very successful. So we're very pleased with how we started into this, again, the 3rd bond program. As Stuart mentioned, we are looking to close in 3 days. The Attorney General has given us preliminary approval, and we'll be working with the lawyers. And what happens at closing is all the wires are done, and we'll send those to the district and off to the races with projects. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara. From the board, questions or comments? Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I just need to get this acronym straight on page 2, all cost TIC,
True interest cost.
true interest costs.
It takes into account the interest rates as well as expenses.
Okay.
That's the way we look at it.
And who are the underwriters?
On the,
You know, I don't have that with me We
thinking.
had two different sets of underwriters for each of these different, each bond sale. Raymond James was the lead underwriter for the $40 million 2014A, and I believe we had co-underwriters of Jaffrey and George Baum, I think it was.
George K. Baum, yes.
Yeah. The 2014 B Series lead underwriter was J.P. Morgan. We also had,
Raymond James.
no, not on the 14B.
Wells Fargo?
Wells Fargo was part of that deal.
I didn't bring a document.
You know, I didn't bring it with me. I can get that to you, though.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I am glad to hear we are using the variable rate process as opposed to the fixed rate. We certainly are going to be experiencing a lot more savings and getting the biggest bang out of our buck, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? There are none. Thank you, Mr. O'Hara.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The administration has already provided to the board a written report on the district's participation in purchasing cooperatives for the 2012-13 school year as required by law. Any questions from the board? Mr. Covey.
When I was looking over that, Matt, are you out there? Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, to make you come up. If you sat on the front row, you wouldn't have to do that. Hey, Matt, I'm constantly getting notes from TASB about their purchasing. Now, was that one, because I didn't see it in there, their purchasing cooperative. I didn't see TASB there unless they're under a different name. Are they under a different name?
TASB would be under, let's see, I have so many bids, I'm losing track. TASB's under the buy board. Yes, sir.
It's under what?
Buy board?
Oh, okay, I didn't,
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
It's on the
okay.
very bottom of the buy board.
okay.
We do
okay.
several contracts through TASB.
Okay, good, all right. I just was wondering why they weren't there, but they are, thank
They
you.
are. Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, as soon as he turns his back,
I'll stay right here.
how do we choose our co-op?
Most of the co-ops that we're members of are the larger co-ops, the DIR, which is a big technology statewide. So we look at a co-op that offers, that's big, that has economies of scale, that offers the different products and services that we might want.
Big as in, I mean,
Big, as in the state comptroller is a statewide, the DIR is statewide. TCPN is anchored through Region 4, so it's all the school districts in Region 4, just about. Buy board is part of TASB,
Right.
so it's very big.
so is there a process in selecting them, or?
We try to join as few as possible, but really what we do is we look at the types of contracts and vendors that they have awarded contracts to, and that's how we make our selection, based
Okay.
on our needs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't turn around so fast.
Okay, Matt's walked away. Other questions for him? The administration has also already provided a written report on the 2014 summer school plans for elementary, middle school, and high school. Questions or comments from the board? Ms. Hartley.
I just had a question about the Student Success Initiative. Now, who will be attending that? Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Hartley. Thank you for letting me have my exercising coming up here this evening. Fifth grade, going to sixth grade, students in reading and math, they have SSI requirements, and eighth grade to ninth grade.
Okay.
SSI, reading and math also.
And are those that maybe didn't pass the STAR, or?
It would be
I'm trying to remember.
students that they take reading and math, and they have three opportunities to pass, and their passing is a part of their promotion from one grade level to the next, 5 to 6 and 8 to 9. So they take their first time in, you're going to hold me to dates now, April, and then again in May, and then there's a July test is the third time.
Okay, and that's funded by the state?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. Anything else?
Other questions, or do we want to wait till Ms. Jadlowski leaves the podium? Hearing none. Very good. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
The board will now review and discuss the following action items. The action items may be considered at both the committee of the whole meeting and the regular board meeting. The board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. And board, what I'm going to do is run through the entire litany of the contracts, and then I'll open it up for questions or comments. Number 1, athletic and clinic first aid supplies. 2, co-location facilities and internet-related services. 3, complete leveled libraries for K through grade 5. 4, dark fiber service. 5, data cabling. 6, enterprise internet. 7, enterprise wireless system and onboarding device access system. 8, handheld and two-way mobile radios, batteries, and repair. 9, internet infrastructure components, priority 2 E-rate. A, DNS, DHCP, IPAM. B, internet gateway router. C, next-gen firewall, UTM, content filter. 10, janitorial supplies. 11, library books, publications, and media supplies. 12, math manipulatives for grade K through 7. 13, network equipment. 14, on-net internet with internet and SIP. 15, property insurance. 16, radio console equipment for CFISD Police Department. 17, replacement furniture for Cy-Fair High School. 18, telecommunication services for PSTN, POTS, and managed VoIP. Vocational lab supplies, equipment, and housewares, that's number 19. Number 20, voice messaging system. 21, voting system, Texas certified. I will now open the floor for questions and comments from the board. Mr. Hoffman.
I just want to get an understanding on the property insurance. Is there anybody who can speak to that?
Property insurance, am I on? Okay.
I think so.
It's a renewal of our property insurance that's due for renewal on April 1st, and we're actually receiving about a 1% reduction in our premiums.
So it's a who is it with?
The underwriter is Lexington, I believe.
Lexington and First
Okay.
Specialty.
Yeah, okay. And they are a carrier that does a lot of large
Correct.
districts
Right.
and large entities, so that's great. And we got a 1% reduction, is that what you said, Stuart?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Great, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry you had to walk all the way up for Stewart.
Other questions? I have a couple. You know, generally as president, or in my case, I'm acting president for Mr. Ryan, you aren't afforded many privileges of asking questions, but you knew I just couldn't sit on my hands any longer. Mr. Snow, we have tonight, we are being asked to vote on contingent contracts, which is something a little bit out of the ordinary. Would you go ahead and explain what these contingent contracts are and why we're being asked to vote on them before funds are available, please?
Sure. Good question. These contracts that you refer to are all technology contracts, and they form the basis for all of the technology infrastructure projects that we've included in the 2014 bond authorization that is set for election on May the 10th. And these contracts are necessary for those projects, and again are contingent on the passage of that election. The technology department has been working on these bids and the resulting contracts for several months now, and because of the lead time in order to develop these bids and to receive the bids back and then to analyze the results, there's a tremendous lead time in order to do that. And so in order for us to really kind of hit the ground running on May the 11th after the election, assuming that that election is successful, then we had to do all of this work preliminarily prior to that election. That's one reason, but the primary reason is that these contracts are the basis for our application for E-rate funding under the Federal Schools and Library Division. And in order for those applications to be considered, we have to have contracts in place prior to March the 26th, in just a little over a week. And so that's the primary reason why we're asking for you to approve these contracts on a contingent basis. We're not asking for funding at this point in time, obviously, because the funding is not available. But we do need the contracts in place in order to, for our applications for E-rate funding to be successful. And we do expect to receive substantial reimbursements as a result of that E-rate funding.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. The next question I have is for Ms. Jackson. If you would, and I had great fun Googling the various acronyms included in these contracts and finding out that an old dog maybe not learn new tricks, but learn new vocabulary. I would like for you to discuss very briefly the two biggest contracts, because these are sizable amounts. One of that would be bid number 7, Enterprise Wireless System and Outboarding Device Access System. And then the other one, which is actually slightly larger, would be number 13, which is network equipment.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Jackson. First of all, as Stuart Snow mentioned, these bids, the responses are going to lay the groundwork for the future of our network design. And so though we are working through this process to prepare for E-rate, we started working on preparing the design as early as November, primarily because we needed the estimates and the design to set the framework in the long-range planning committee's work. And so our estimates that we're using in our long-range planning committee and in bond preparation were based on the foundation that has been set with these bids. Specifically to talk about the two requests for proposals that you're referring to, the first is the Enterprise Wireless System and Onboarding Device Access System, and that is RFP 1312-3690. And the selection process for this particular bid was really based on a variety of different attributes, and the same selection criteria was applied to all of the bids. But we primarily looked at the total cost of ownership. We looked at the initial purchase price, but we also looked at the 3- and 5-year cost. We looked at the ongoing maintenance cost, the capabilities of the vendor, the reputation of a vendor. We were only looking for those types of vendors that were leading edge design companies with system engineers that could provide us the kinds of capabilities that we are anticipating in the future for our technology program. The purpose of the Enterprise Wireless System and Onboarding Device Access System is to provide state-of-the-art wireless connectivity in all of our schools. Currently, we have 8,500 wireless access points that are aging. We've talked about that before as a result of needing the bond. We plan to, with this bid, we're proposing that we would replace all of those access points and install a system that would manage what we're referring to as smart air. The wireless access would be secured and assured that students would get access to student information systems and those types of curricular areas that are important to them. Guests would only be allowed on a guest network and employees on their network. So basically it would be smart enough, the equipment and the devices, the onboarding, to secure our network and make certain that we would have the capacity and the reliability in our classrooms and in our sites. Is that too technical?
No, that's all good.
Okay. Second, you spoke about the second as being our network equipment, and that is our Network Operations Center. We call that a NOC. Ethernet switching, fabric, wide area network, and access switching, and this is RFP 1401-3934. And this particular bid is awarded to a contractor using the exact same selection criteria. We wanted a systems engineer that was a market leader, again, that could take us into the future in the district, that would, as we anticipate the needs of the future for our technology program. We currently have around 1,800 network electronics, which are switching gear that, in simple terms, basically takes the connection throughout the district and to the internet and divides up the data and transports it to the appropriate location, the campus, wherever it is designated and needing to go. And that needs to happen almost in a nanosecond. If we wait 5 seconds, we're twiddling our thumbs thinking, why is the response time so slow? Literally, our expectation is that it would be 1 to 2 seconds. So the response in contract awarded to this vendor would basically replace every network electronic, every switch in the district at every campus with high-speed, high-capacity network switching gear that would deliver the types of response that we're expecting in the next 5 years.
Two very quick questions. Principals have been very kind to casually point out to me where they have dead spots in their schools, and the number of dead spots are significant. Will this address the concerns of those principals?
Yes, sir. We've actually included in this bid response, if you looked at the bid tabulation, a replacement of all of our connections, and then an 82% increase in the number of wireless access network access points throughout the district. But additionally, we're looking at also installing access points on the outside so that those students that may not have connectivity in their homes could at least work in the perimeters of the facility. There's also options that include community hotspots. So we were very conscientious about the dead spots, not only within the facilities, but also within the community to a certain degree, and then also the outdoors of the locations.
And the next question, and you don't really have to answer it, but I couldn't help but notice that on contract number 7, that this company that y'all have selected for our, and recommended to us for our approval this evening, on Thursday, rather, was previously hired by a much smaller educational facility located in College Station. They're half our size. Do you think they can step up and handle somebody as big as we are?
I know that we can. We checked out every one of our references. We feel certain that they will be able to handle the capacity that we have planned for this district.
Thank you. That was actually meant to be my best Don Ryan.
Am I supposed to laugh?
Yes.
You are referring to Texas A&M, aren't you?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson, I would also like to say thank you to my team. Fred Brenz has worked, our Enterprise Communication Network Manager, tirelessly on these 10 requests for proposals. You will see that he actually participated in the scoring and tabulation of these bids and did a fantastic job, and I would like to publicly thank him.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, and to your team. Item B, the board will consider approving a request for a Texas Education Agency expedited waiver to allow the district to train staff on various strategies designed to improve student achievement in lieu of a maximum 3 days of student instruction in 2014-15, 2015-16, 2016-17. Questions or comments from the board? There is no presentation. In fact, for C through H, there is not a presentation. I'll read those, and I'll read C through H
Okay.
combined and then open the floor for
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Hartley?
Oh, I was just wanting to make sure that I get it right. So the teachers could have training on these 3 days, or campuses have flexibility in completing that training through other avenues. Is that correct?
I would assume that the other avenues you're referencing is what we call time equivalency days. A campus does have the autonomy, for example, if they want their staff to come during the summer in lieu of one of these days, January 5th as an example, they can do that.
Okay. I think it's good to give our principals some autonomy on their campus, and they know their campus best and what they need and what they like. So, thank you.
Mr. Ogletree?
And you may have answered this, but I'm wondering, is this the first time we've had to ask for this, or why, to train staff, why would we need a waiver?
Good question, Dr. Ogletree. Since I've been in Cypress-Fairbanks since 2005, we have had this waiver, maintained this waiver, and as you can see, it is a 3-year waiver. So it is simply time for us to submit the expedited waiver to TEA, Texas Education Agency. The rationale behind that is that we feel like that the instructional days obviously are very important. However, we need to provide our teachers and staff time for those instructional practices. If looking at the 14-15 calendar, you'll see that 6 of those days are prior to the first day of instruction. That Friday, August 15th, and then that entire week of the 18th through the 22nd. And then you have the other 4 days throughout the year to give them time to assess data, to make adjustments along the way. You also see in October, you have the Parent-Teacher Conference Day at the elementary level, and then the Staff Development Day for the secondary.
And additionally, Dr. Ogletree, state law requires there be 180 instructional days, so this waiver is asking to replace 3 instructional days, which is the maximum the TEA allows, with those professional development days Roy was mentioning, and having them during the school year, as Roy will attest. I think my understanding is that's even more meaningful than during the school year for the teachers to be able to do those data digs, as they call them, and assess and have that professional development at key times during the school year. So the piece that's kind of not mentioned in the waiver but plays into it is the minimum number of school days.
Item C, the board will consider approving the district K through 12 science and K through 8 mathematics textbook recommendations for 2014-2015. There is no presentation on this either. Questions, comments? We'll go ahead and ask it here. I'll run the last several together. Mr.
And
Coleman.
almost, who am I asking? Linda's not here. Mary, come up. I almost hate to even open this can of worms when I want to ask it. So with the 7th and 8th grade science book, has nothing to do with the sex education that we're
Oh,
going to
no,
be.
sir.
Okay.
No, we've done that, been there, done that. Not going to do it again.
Just wanted to make sure and wanted
Thank
the
you for
statement known.
asking for
Thank you.
clarification. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And what about the mathematics textbook? Same answer?
No sex education in math.
Thank you.
I'm very proud to say that was my content area. I didn't have to teach that.
Tom, that was a good one,
It was.
the Don Ryan.
You're doing a very good imitation this evening, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Hoffman?
Forensic science, can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about Cengage?
I don't have, I can get you some information. Forensic science is actually a career and technical education course that can serve as a science credit. I don't know about that specific publisher. I can get information for them if you would like.
Well, you know if we've used them before?
I do not know if we've used them before, if that's a new adoption,
Okay,
but I can check for you.
thanks.
Be glad to.
Others? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Jablonski. Item D, the board will consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. Item E, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. Item F, the board will consider approving the minutes of the January 16th, 2014 special called meeting. Item G, the board will consider approving the minutes of the February 13th, 2014 regular meeting. Item H, the board will consider approving the minutes of the February 27th, 2014 special called meeting. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or corrections to any of the minutes or questions on the other items that we did not pause to allow comments to be made? Mr. Covey.
Stuart, back to that, the tax refund, and there's some rather healthy ones. Can you look at I think there's 2 or 3, I was trying to get down to it. Excuse me. The metals, 72,000 approximately, and those first 3, I guess, I just wondered if you could kind of clarify why those are so large.
Yes, well, those are, all of those are duplicate payments. They were either paid by the company and the tax service that they employ to pay those, and so it was a double payment on those.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? I would request the board to consider leaving items A through H on the consent agenda. They'll stay. Number 6, we will now move to action items non-consensus. The following items may be considered at both the committee of the whole meeting and the regular board meeting. Item A, the board will consider approving on first reading revisions to district policies. Number 1, DBA local, employment requirements and restrictions, credentials and records. Item 2, DFFA local, reduction in force, financial exigency. Number 3, DFFB local, reduction in force, program change. Number 4, DGBA local, personnel management relations, employee complaints, grievances. Number 5, FEA local, attendance, compulsory attendance. Number 6, FEC local, attendance, attendance for credit. Number 7, FFC local, student welfare, student support services. Are there any questions regarding these items? Item B, the board will consider adopting an order appointing election officials for the bond election to be held within the district on May 10th, 2014. At your desk, everybody has been given the appointment of election officials. We do not have a formal presentation this evening. Are there questions or comments? Mr. Covey.
I just, if you don't mind, somebody kind of explain how we came up with these names and where they came from. They may be very simple, so if you don't mind.
I'm going to ask Mr. Edwards to come forward and try to clarify anything I'm unable to explain. But in organizing our own election, we have the responsibility through this process to appoint the election judges. So in determining our polling sites, we had to combine the county precincts into the designated polling sites that you approved in the order last month. At the end of February, just a couple of weeks ago. And so through that process, we also requested from the county the election judges that have been used in the past in those different county precincts. And so I think that that was the list we started from in identifying and contacting individuals who would be interested in working our election as well. And I'll let you add or clarify if I...
Yeah, and that basically is the process we've used. We're only using Harris County trained judges. Everyone that's on the list has served as a precinct judge in a Harris County election. All of them were in the November 2013 election. So we actually sent emails out to all those judges, and we received responses back for people who were agreeing to work for us. I did. I'm back part-time, so just with the election. Sure.
Dr. Ogletree.
And Marty, we pay all of these election judges? This comes from us and not from the county, or is it?
We have not paid them. Of course, they haven't worked yet, but we will be paying them.
we
All the
will.
costs will come through us. We really don't, we're not running a joint election with the county.
Okay.
For this election, so the total cost of election will come from Cypher ISD.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? I would then ask if it's the board's pleasure to move the non-consent items to the consent agenda,
Yes.
and it appears to be the consensus. So we will consider all of those items moved to the consent agenda. Number 7, the board will discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Section 551.072. Do we have any real property to discuss? Then we need to go into executive session.
We
Do-
will need a closed session, yes, sir.
So do I hear a motion to do so?
Make a motion, we go into closed session. Did y'all hear me?
And seconded by Mr. Hoffman. Madam Secretary, you have that recorded? Very good. I would like to thank everybody for being here. We will go into closed session. You are more than welcome to wait until we come out, but if you choose not to, we will not have our feelings hurt. Thank you.
Don't do it, don't.